3 miles per hour is all it takes to outrun 20 million killer ants. So why do animals far faster than that still end up stripped to the bone? The trap they walk into is the real story here. That is not the most disturbing thing on this list. We are going to count down 7 creatures that crossed paths with a swarm, ranked by how little chance they actually had. And the animal at number 1 did not stand a chance for reasons that have nothing to do with size. Before the ranking, you need to understand what a swarm raid actually is, because calling it an ant attack is like calling a hurricane a strong breeze. A Eciton burchellii raid, the species we are talking about, deploys between 100,000 and 700,000 workers simultaneously. The column can stretch over 100 meters long and advance as a front wider than 20 meters across. They move at roughly 20 meters per hour. Not fast, but the front does not stop, does not tire, and does not negotiate. Every ant in that column is functionally blind, no eyes worth speaking of. They navigate entirely on chemical signals, pheromones laid by the ants ahead of them, updated in real time by every ant behind. The colony is not led by a general. There is no general. The strategy emerges from the system itself. That is what makes them dangerous. You cannot kill the leader. There is no leader. You can only run, and the front has already cut off most of the exits. 7 creatures, ranked by probability of survival, starting with something that at least had a chance. A tarantula the size of a human hand has venom, speed, and fangs that can puncture leather. Against most threats in the Amazon, that is more than enough. Against army ants, it is completely irrelevant. The tarantula's first problem is size. It is large enough for the ants to find immediately. Chemical signals from its body read as prey from meters away. Its second problem is its body plan. 8 legs, a soft abdomen, and joints that exposed flesh must cross every time it moves. The ants target those joints. Documented field observations have recorded tarantulas being fully immobilized and dismembered within 4 minutes of first contact with a raiding column. The spider's venom means nothing. The ants do not have a centralized nervous system vulnerable to it. You cannot paralyze a system with no single point of failure. The tarantula ranks 7th only because it occasionally escapes if it detects the chemical front early enough to retreat vertically, up into the canopy where the column does not follow. Occasionally. A bird can fly. That should be the end of the conversation. It is not, because of one specific scenario that researchers have documented repeatedly across Central and South America. A ground-nesting bird sitting on eggs will not immediately flee a swarm. The instinct to protect the nest overrides the instinct to escape. By the time the ants make contact, the bird is surrounded. The bird escapes. The eggs do not. Neither do the chicks, if any have hatched. The ants dismantle the nest contents methodically. Larvae, eggs, and any chick too small to move are processed within minutes. It ranks 6th because the adult survives. But the researchers who study army ant raids have noted that entire breeding seasons for some species can be disrupted by a single column passing through nesting habitat. The ants do not set out to destroy a bird's future. They simply do. That is not cruelty. That is just the system doing its job. A wasp nest is, by most standards, a fortress. The inhabitants sting, swarm, and defend with coordinated aggression that drives away animals 10,000 times their size. Most predators learn to leave wasp nests alone. Army ants have not learned this lesson. Or rather, they considered it and decided it did not apply to them. Eciton army ants have been directly observed raiding active wasp and bee nests, moving through the defensive swarm of stinging insects, absorbing casualties and dismantling the nest for the larvae inside. The individual wasps sting. Individual ants die. Neither fact changes the outcome. The column has more bodies than the wasp colony can exhaust. The wasps rank 5th because they actually inflict meaningful casualties on the raiding column, something most prey cannot manage. But the nest still falls. The wasps are defending a fixed point against an enemy that does not value its own losses. That is not a war the wasps can win. That has never been a war the wasps could win. The fer-de-lance is responsible for more snakebite fatalities in Central and South America than any other snake species. It is fast, aggressive, and its venom causes tissue necrosis. Flesh dies and dissolves around the bite site. Even large animals die from it. Against army ants, the venom is not the relevant variable. The relevant variable is that a snake is a long, low-slung animal with scales that leave gaps at every joint, and it cannot move quickly enough to outpace a coordinated front closing in from multiple directions simultaneously. The snake can strike. It can kill individual ants by the dozens. The column replaces them without pause. Documented observations of army ants immobilizing and consuming snakes exist across field research in both Central and South America. The fer-de-lance ranks fourth, not first, because a large, healthy snake that detects the chemical advance early enough can simply move. The snake is not slow by jungle standards, but it needs the warning. And the jungle does not always give warnings. The South American horned frog, Ceratophrys, is sometimes called the Pac-Man frog, which makes it sound harmless. It is not. It is a sit-and-wait predator with a bite force disproportionate to almost anything its size, and a jaw wide enough to swallow mice and other frogs whole. Its entire survival strategy is based on one principle: do not move, camouflage, stillness, and explosive ambush. That strategy is devastatingly effective against every predator in its environment that uses vision. Army ants do not use vision. The frog's camouflage is chemically invisible. The ants detect its body heat, moisture, and biological chemistry from the surrounding air. Staying still does not make the frog harder to find. It makes it easier. The frog's instinct, honed across millions of years of evolution, has no counter-response for a threat that does not need to see it. It ranks third because a horned frog that moves fast enough in the first seconds of contact can escape. But the first seconds are the ones the frog spends not believing the threat is real. That hesitation is the difference between survival and the column carrying something away in pieces. This one requires a moment to appreciate, because army ants do not exclusively raid other species. They raid other ant colonies. A mature leafcutter colony can contain 8 million workers. It has soldiers with mandibles capable of cutting through human skin. It has chemical defenses, coordinated alarm responses, and the architectural advantage of a tunnel system that most invaders cannot penetrate. Army ant raids on other social insect colonies have been recorded targeting the brood, the eggs, larvae, and pupae, specifically. The raiding column does not attempt to destroy the colony. It extracts the most nutritionally valuable contents and withdraws. The defending colony can repel the raid if it has enough soldiers at the right location at the right time. Sometimes it does. More often, the army ant column absorbs the defense and takes what it came for. The rival colony ranks second rather than first because it occasionally wins. The tunnel system provides a genuine structural advantage. The defenders have a home ground they understand. But the army ant column does not need to win, it only needs to take enough. The army ant's most documented large vertebrate fatalities do not involve exotic jungle species with unusual vulnerabilities. They involve the one animal that evolution never prepared for this threat, because this animal was never supposed to be there. Documented cases exist from South America and parts of Africa of army ant-related species overwhelming tethered or penned livestock, horses, cattle, goats, animals that were physically unable to flee. A horse weighing half a ton has skin, hooves, and size advantages that should make it impervious to insects. But the soft tissue around the eyes, nostrils, and mouth is not protected. The ants find those points. And a tethered animal cannot do the one thing that saves every other animal on this list from complete destruction. It cannot run. This is not a story about monsters. The army ant colony is not trying to destroy anything. It is a system optimized over 100 million years of evolution for one purpose: to convert available biomass into colony growth as efficiently as possible. The tethered horse, the nesting bird, the frog that will not move, none of them are prey in any meaningful sense to the colony. They are simply material the system has encountered. The system processes what it encounters. It does not make exceptions. That is what makes army ants the apex predator of the forest floor. Not individual strength, not venom, not speed. The complete absence of anything a single prey animal's defenses were ever built to stop. Which creature on this list had the least chance? Every other animal had one variable working in its favor. The tarantula could climb. The snake could move fast enough if it detected the threat early. The wasp colony could inflict real losses. The tethered animal had nothing. No adaptation, no escape route, no relevant defense. It was simply in the wrong place, attached to a post. When the system arrived, the army ant does not win through strength. It wins through volume, coordination, and the absolute refusal to stop. 100 million years of unbroken success. No army has ever matched that record. And somewhere in the Amazon right now, a column is moving. Whatever is in its path has approximately 20 meters of warning. That is usually not enough. If you want to see what happens when the apex predator of the ocean runs the same kind of coordinated ambush, the orca, which uses almost identical swarm logic with a very different body size, that video is next. Subscribe so the algorithm does not bury it before you find it. Ord 1 to 15, innehåller en fara och ett konkret tal. A column of army ants can strip a full-grown tarantula down to bare exoskeleton in under 4 minutes. Ingen av de första 3 meningarna börjar med you, have, today, welcome, in this, once. Öppen fråga etablerad inom 15 seki. Vilket djur hade minst chans? Och varför kan det inte fly oavsett vad det gör? Tittaren skulle inte klicka bort efter mening 1.